Great. Okay, so yeah, welcome to this workshop. So it seems like a long time ago, the March one. I was just checking when it was, but it just I've completely forgotten about it. But we did the lower body. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the upper body. So we have got the recordings from the March workshop. If you need them, let me know. I can send you a link. So we're going to begin now. So it's, depending on how you organize the next 3 days, it could be more like a retreat or more like a workshop. So there might be you might be doing the sessions and coming and going, so on. But that really is up to you how you do that. And the orientation is towards practice rather than teaching you how to teach, which we're going to look at least for the 300 hour students later this month. We've got a 5-day session. What else to say? Yeah, today's sequence is a little bit more emphasizing a yin practice. It's more, quieter, slower, partly just to allow us to rest and build up, and then it gets progressively stronger over the next couple of days. And Sadhata says he's going to be presenting his material in the afternoon. He says he's going to be well, he'll tell you, but he's going to be including some body systematic relaxation as part of the practice this afternoon, which is part of something we do on the teacher training, amongst other things. I hope you enjoy it, so that Salata will do this evening session, the poetry and meditation, and I'll do tomorrow evening. Okay, I'm just to remind you, on Sunday there is no evening session. So it's just the morning and the afternoon. And I'm going to be recording all these sessions. I'll try to upload them as quick as I can to YouTube, a private folder there. Try that out this time. And if there's any problems with sound or you can't see what I'm doing, do intervene. Okay, that's fine. I'm aware that I'm like on my mobile internet. So in this house, we haven't got Wi-Fi. So I'm relying on my mobile phone, which should be fine. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to the other camera now. Oh, I think that's no good. Okay, there we go. That's better. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm going to move back. What we're going to start with is some work with a bolster. So I can see 1 or 2 people have got bolsters. If you haven't, you can make a roll with blankets. Okay, so I'm going to put the bolster crossways over across the mat, and then some sort of support for the head, unless you really want to go into a strong extension of the neck. Good. Wow. Here we go. So we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna start off with a sort of quieter sequence today, which is size opening the upper back and shoulder area, neck area, but more passively. Okay, so do get enough support for the head. Okay, like first thing in the morning, a strong extension of the neck probably isn't the best thing to do. Okay, so be comfortable. So remembering with the principles of yin practice that we're working in a sub-maximal way. Okay, so we're not going to a full-on intense or looking for a full and intense experience deliberately. So you can back off a little bit from your limits. So getting enough support in there to help create a more, we could say, comfortable. I mean, they will be challenging. The poses will be challenging. So I don't know if comfortable is the word, but it's like you don't want to be fighting with the pose. Okay, so setting yourself up. I'm going to bring my feet into Supta Baddha Konasana as well. But if you want to have the legs more passive, then or less involved, then you could just extend the legs or cross the legs. And with this first pose, or the first couple of poses, we're going to build our sense of awareness, mindfulness. So we're going to be exploring these 5 fields in particular that we draw out in the so-called mindfulness yoga, or the yoga with mindfulness, or the mindfulness for yoga. There's different ways you could try to express what we're trying to do. But essentially, we're drawing from Satipatthana, as you know, emphasizing particularly the body and the breath, but also including Chitta, so it's the heart, mind, and to a certain extent including Dhamma, the 4th Satipatthana, which here we could say is this reflective element on change and nitya. It's like the refrain that you find through the Satipatthana teaching. Satipatthana Sutras is a refrain that reminds us, or tries to remind us, that all is change, all is dependent on conditions, arising, falling away, arising, ceasing. Drawing out that key Buddhist teaching, dependent arising, which is the key vision that the Buddha shared. All things arise based on conditions. So we're going to anchor down, first of all, into the body. We'll spend a little bit longer in this pose. To be aware of the immediate experience of your body, the immediate sensations, wherever the sensations are most obvious. Yeah, for me right now, it's the pelvic area, the inner legs, groins, but also I can feel the extension through the thoracic area. Once you ease into it, maybe you want to release the head closer to the floor to increase the extension through the upper back area. So we're going to be trying to, the emphasis is better to say emphasis is the upper section of the body. That's like from the solar plexus upwards. Okay, so in the last session, we were working sort of from the navel down. Now we're working from the navel up. But obviously, with yoga poses, the whole body's involved. So it's more like an emphasis. It's not like we're going to forget about the lower section of the body. Try and bring that in to the practice. See if you can let go of the arms. Relaxing, releasing the face, the eyes. You've been aware of the specific sensations, so they might be quite intense, they might be quite mild. And then coming into whole body awareness. Whole body awareness. From the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, into the fingertips. So we can immediately begin to see our experience as one of flux. Just seeing if it's possible to even glimpse or see this idea manifesting that all is arising in the moment based on conditions. It's constantly changing depending on those conditions. And then coming into awareness of the sense of your mood, the whole heart-mind experience. Maybe you're in a process still of waking up, so things are not so clear. Or not, there might be some clearer emotions coming to the surface. Taking your time, so in a way we've got 3 days to get into contact with ourselves. There's no rush. We can start to develop what we could call receptivity, openness to our experience, letting your experience bubble up, not forcing a particular state of mind. And then for the last 5 breaths, we're going to follow the breath. So if you want to intensify the position, you could take the support of the head away. Also, that will increase the extension through the upper back. And what we don't do here is sit up to come out. So bringing the soles of the feet onto the floor. What we need to do is just very slowly lift the head and move down towards, keeping the head low, move down towards your feet. And remove the bolster above the head, just pushing that away, coming into semi-supine for a moment. Let the hands rest onto your body. Sense of the back of the body broad, in contact with the floor, feeling the contact with the floor. And just being aware, so we're going to be going at a slower pace with this session. So to keep a sense of continuity of attention, what I would encourage you to do is pay attention to your experience in between the poses. That way you build up continuity. It's really important aspect, actually, I think, of what teaching classes, but also practicing your yoga is the in-between moments. They're kind of what we could call they're crucial, actually. They're like the liminal moments between one pose and another. And it's very easy just to let your mind drift off, or, I've even seen people looking at their mobiles in between poses, which just seems outrageous. But see if you can stay in the body and being aware of the post-pose experience. Okay, so there will be an echo in the body of that last pose. From there, we're going to roll to one side. Okay, and we're going to reuse the bolster, still going across your mat. So I'm going to face the camera this time. So this is a lateral extension. Okay, so you could use a cushion or a block. I'm just going to go for a little bit more of a height. Bolster's a bit flat, so I'm building up the floor, and I'm going to bring the side ribs. So this is like the lower section of the ribs onto the bolster. The legs are just folded up in an easy fashion. And then you can use a cushion or a block or folded blanket or something to support the side of the head. So this is why I don't want to be losing my microphone. And then the top arm, we take it up. To begin with, the bottom arm I'm bending up, and we're hooking the top arm. Basically sits, it's almost like propped up on the lower hand. I'll just show that again. So I'm making like a cup with the hand, the lower hand, dropping my forearm into the cup. And then I can gently, this will be new for some of you, like Kashantika, I think, has done this with me half a dozen times, this pose, probably Sandra as well. But it's a really great pose, though. Good to revisit. So that top arm is dropping into the lower hand, and I can have a little bit of traction. Okay, a little bit of traction there, in the sense that I'm allowing okay, so I've got my right side towards the floor, so I'm allowing the right lower hand to gently pull away from the head. So that helps to open the top shoulder, left shoulder in my case. Okay. So again, we're being quiet here. You can change the position a little bit where you turn the chest somewhat towards the ceiling, which is fine as well. Okay, so it can be more lateral, or it can have more of a twist, which somehow connects it with the last pose that we've just done with the Supta Baddha Konasana. So you let the hips be heavy. You'll feel that this is pulling on, well, where I notice is it's pulling like the spinal erector muscles, so that the chain of muscles that run up and down the spine, more on the top side than the lower side. And you can feel it pulling into the sacral area. Okay, so we're going to be here for a couple of minutes as passively as possible. So once it's set up, you're working more with gravity with these poses, with these yin style poses. Again, tuning in with the specific sensations. I'm just going to have a look what's going on there. Okay, yeah, that's it. Great. So those of you that are doing a more lateral, just explore taking the top shoulder back a little bit, if that works for you. So you're bringing a little bit of a twist through the upper spine, okay? Again, the legs passive, hips heavy, the face relaxing, the eyes releasing, tuning in with specific sensations. So I've said this before, but one way of seeing the yin poses is like a series of short meditations. So with meditation, usually we're trying to find a way in to hooking our experience or our mind into our experience. So with these poses, the obvious place to hook your attention is into the sensations in the body. There's a sense sometimes, depending on what the last few days have been like, but we might be very much in the sort of mental realm. So often when we come to our yoga practice, a sense of like climbing back into the body, or sort of tunneling down, perhaps is a better image, rooting down into the physical experience, down into the feet, the skin, the joints, the bones. This practice is ideal in a sense for that. Okay, so to come out again, I don't recommend any like sitting up really strongly here. So what I do recommend actually is turning towards the floor and grounding your palms, swinging into all fours. And then I'm going to be turning away from the camera now, but you just swing the legs to the opposite side and set yourself up on the opposite side. Exactly the same. Start off lateral. So the top arm, I'm going to just demonstrate by taking it straight up to the ceiling. The lower arm, I'm folding it up at the elbow. And then I'm dropping the upper forearm into the cup of the hand and gently pulling that away from me. So I'm creating what could be best described as traction. Just a gentle pulling away
of the arm. The traction you'll feel right down into the hip joint, to the sacrum. Starting off more laterally and feeling free to explore the twisting action. The bolster is definitely supporting the rib cage. So it's not on the, as it were, the soft waist area. It's definitely propping up the last ribs, hips and legs heavy. And a sense of dropping down into your body, connecting with the breath. So I'm not going to suggest any special breath for today. To let your breath settle into whatever it wants to do. Okay. Taking a couple more breaths there. So if you haven't explored the twist, gently drawing like the top collarbone back towards the ceiling. Exploring the sensations around that, around the upper back, or even the way it might play into the pelvis, the sacrum. So yeah, personally, I find this really useful pose for relieving, curiously, for relieving like more like the lower back area. Okay, we're emphasizing that opening in the chest, but actually for me, it's really been helpful to release the connection between the sacrum, lower back, and the pelvis. So from there, very carefully turning towards the floor. So you're going to roll around very slowly, allowing yourself to come into all fours. Okay. And then from all fours, we're going to sit back onto the feet for a moment. What I'd like you to do is to build the floor up even higher now. So I'm going to use some more bricks, but whatever you've got to bring the floor up, you can bring the bolster in as well as the last element. So we're looking to make a tower. So this pose, we're going to come back in at various points in the sequence. They're quite a powerful pose. Again, passive. So I'd like us to bring the elbows up onto the top of the tower. I'm going to do this twice. So the first version, I think we did this, those of you that have been coming to my weekly sessions, we did this the other day. So we're going to bring the forehead to the support as well. So the first position for the first round is elbows and forehead at the same height. Okay, and then you want to take your knees back and draw the belly in a little bit. So you can allow the spine to concave, to come into extension, but only what's comfortable for you. Okay, so in fact, if you want to emphasize more the upper back, I would pivot the pelvis back and draw the belly in a little bit. So there's a little bit of cradling or supporting in the lower part of the body. And feeling the work around the shoulders. So this first position in theory is gentler because the head is supported, it's not hanging. This is sometimes called a shoulder hang. breathing. So it can be quite intense around the shoulder blades, around the underarms, around that whole area, the neck included. Connecting again with the sensations. If you want to make this gentler, you can actually bring your knees further forwards. So it's more like you're kneeling, and so your belly comes down towards the thighs. So I'm just demonstrating that if you want a more gentler position. Okay, with an inhale, very carefully lifting the head up, coming out, bringing your knees forwards. Again, sit back onto the feet for a moment. I'm going to come into the pose again. And this time we're going to allow the head to drop through the arms, okay? So gentler position is, as I've just shown, with the knees forwards. And then you walk your knees back and allow the head. So I'm actually bringing some support there, belly onto the thighs. But if you want a more intense position, come up into all fours and then allow. So you're going to have more weight hanging forwards into the upper back. So the head is not touching the floor. Okay, that's not the idea. The idea is the head is now free. Elbows about shoulder width. They can be narrower, they can be wider. Okay, depending how much sensation you want, play with the position of the legs. Okay, so I'm going to go for a slightly milder version. So I'm coming into kneeling and then hanging through. So palms can be going up toward the ceiling, or you can extend the arms out. That's another way of doing. Breathing into sensations. So these, yes, intense pose, the beginning of the sequence. Wanting to work into the upper back, more passive stretches. So here we go. Connecting with your breathing. You can release a little bit more fully with the last few breaths. Really let gravity work through the structures of the shoulders, the neck, the upper back. So with the yin practice, where there's this quality of surrendering and letting go. And then from there, very carefully, lifting your head up, bring your knees forwards, carefully coming back to kneeling for a moment, sitting on the feet. So if you have been kneeling for a while, then do feel free to extend your legs out, open the backs of the legs. Okay. So that's the shoulder hang. Okay, so we're going to come down. Okay, yeah. This again, a familiar pose. So I'm going to use a bit of support here. I'm going to use the bolster. So we're going to look at Sphinx and Cobra. So the simple Sphinx pose is resting the forearms down onto the floor and lifting the gaze, lifting the chest,
For me, it works better to have a little bit more height. Okay, so I'm bringing a bolster underneath the forearms. So I've got my elbows slightly forwards, so I'm propping up the top end of the body, as it were, from the lifting the chest, broadening across the collarbone. So the gaze will take out towards the horizon. And your feet you can separate. Hip width, or they can be narrower. Narrower is more intense on your body. You'll notice more the action in the lower back if you bring your feet together. So depending on what you're looking for, if you take your feet wider, then that work in the lower section of the spine gets milder and milder. So I'll just let you work with that. And very minimally, I'm lifting here. So I'm not completely collapsing the chest down. There's a sense of lifting or lengthening, is a way of describing it, from the pubic bone to the throat area. So it's like lengthening the front of the body. My crown is lifting. So again, yeah, I'm really noticing this. Outwardly, it doesn't look like there's very much going on. Okay, you're just doing a gentle back bend. But with the yin practice, the work is often quite internal. Well, it is almost always internal. And actually, it's quite difficult when you're teaching this to read what's going on. I mean, you can feel a bit the atmosphere in the class. So I'm noticing this more in the sort of kidney area. So interestingly, in the yin yoga practice, it's used to stimulate the urinary bladder, kidney meridians. But we're thinking of it here as an extension through the spine, preparation for a more intense back bend. See if you can be quiet in the pelvis, a sense of softening around the groins, your genital area, the buttocks even. The sense of gently lifting through, as it were, from this, lifting the sternum, which is the front of the chest, gently lifting up the crown, lifting up. So it's not completely passive, as it were, collapsing down. So we could stay longer, but we're going to come down now. So carefully releasing down. Obviously, in your own practice, you want to work out how long to stay in the poses. Sometimes it's almost like your body will invite you to want to stay longer or to stay less time. So we can start to tune in with that. Obviously, when you're guiding a class, you're setting the rhythm there. So coming into Purdavasana, releasing, completely face down. I'm going to push the bolster away or the support away if you are using it. And then we're going to bring the arms into, as it were, a cactus position. So I've got my palms away from the body and forwards. I'm turning the hands slightly outwards. And because this is more intense, I'm actually going to take my feet wider. Okay, so I had them quite narrow for the last pose. There's less intense on the lower spine. And then from here, we're going to lift up. Again, it's minimal effort with the arms, but it's a more intense extension. You got more height. So depending on your body, you might want to take the hands further forwards or further back. So further back, obviously will be more intense. And we're trying to, as it were, lock the arms to prop ourselves up. Yep. Everybody's following me okay? Yeah. Okay. The gaze, so what I quite like to do with this pose is actually encourage the gaze up a little bit towards the sky. So this is resembling a cobra, as it when it kind of comes up, pops up, having a look or ready to strike, supposedly. And again, see if you can relax around the pelvis, buttocks, pelvic floor, around the sacrum. Said to be very stimulating actually for the lower chakras, this pose, according to some studies. So again, there's a sense of lifting through, lifting the sternum, lifting the chest, lifting the gaze. And we're not going to stay for so long. So when you're ready, coming down, again, you could probably stay longer. Coming into Purvasana, resting the forehead down. Relaxing around the shoulders, releasing around the pelvis. From here, coming into a fourth. So from there, yeah, we're going to start to do, okay. A little bit of movement now. So come down into child's pose, resting the hands back and the forehead down. So this is, we're going to sweep up. So actually, let's rest the hands onto the sacrum just to have somewhere specific to put the hands. You can feel the backs of the hands on your sacrum. So this is going to work into the thighs more than anything. So on an inhale, you lift the chest, lift the legs, unfold the arms into a sort of wing position or cactus position, looking up, and on an exhale, swing back down. Sometimes called Vajrasana. Hands come back onto the sacrum, head comes down. So you can synchronize, as it were, the three parts of the pose. It's the legs, the upper body, and the arms. As you exhale, folding down. As you buttocks come down to the heels, your hands come down to the sacrum. So it's like you're gathering yourself back up into a ball. And then on the inhale, do feel free to extend the arms up. I'm sort of running out of ceiling space here, but you can reach right up and take the arms wide, okay, as much as your space allows. There's a sense of opening the wings. Going to move a little bit away from the wall so I can really reach out through the arms and reach up. Tops of the feet on the floor, sense of grounding through the shins. Synchronizing the movement with the breath. So as you inhale, unfolding the arms. So again, it seems really simple, but it's very useful pose for linking sequences together. And it has the benefit of beginning to strengthen and tone the legs. And it's training us to work with this principle of vinyasa, which is moving with the breath. The body moving with the breath, which helps to heighten our attention, our presence. Exhaling down. Do that 2 more times. Inhaling. Coming up. I'm just going to see what's happening there again. making that as smooth transitions as possible. We're gathering our hands back to the sacrum. What we could do here, just be aware of what's happening through the shoulders as you take your arms up or wide and then up. So just being aware of that. And then coming back into child's pose. From child's pose, we're going to extend the arms now forwards along the floor, away from the shoulders, palms down. Inhale, coming into all fours. So, we're going to move into a little bit of toning, very simple. So from exhale, lifting the sitting bones, coming up into a high dog, so the heels lifting. The knees can be bent. So we're going to come into the plank, high plank, okay? So actually I quite like to have a slightly longer base for this. So I'm going to take my feet back. So on the inhale, I swing forwards, taking the gaze slightly forwards, shoulders, hips, and ankles in line. And on the exhale, go back up into dog pose. So we'll repeat that 5 times. Inhale, coming into the high plank, gaze forwards. Exhale, swing back. Being aware of the heat in the body, this will start to generate with the Vadrasana as well. Exhale. The one thing to look out for is not dropping the hips too low. Just going to see what's happening there. So we're swinging for keeping the arms straight. One line between shoulders, hips, and ankles. Gosh, I can see with this sequence, I'm really containing the desire to get into some toning work, but it will come up tomorrow. So one more plank. Okay, let's see if we can hold the plank for 5 breaths. So rather than looking forward, if that strains the neck, look straight down and emphasize a sense of strength and stability from the shoulders through to the hips to the ankles. Legs firm, active. Breathing their arms straight. So it's weight bearing, okay? So your weight going into your hands. Obviously, let's come down to hands and knees. Just one little thing for those of you learning to teach. Some people struggle with wrists in weight bearing poses. So I'm just showing you here what you can do is roll up the end of your mat. Okay, and prop up the heel of the hand. Can you see that? I'll just show that again. So I'm just rolling up the end of my mat. 2 mats here, actually. You make a little prop for the heel of the hand. So the fingers are actually lower than the heel. So let's do the plank again and just see how that feels. It's coming up into the dog pose. And swing forward into a static plank. I just want you to feel with the heel of the hand lifted, how that feels on the wrists. Okay. So wrists can be a bit of an issue with weight bearing. So again, lining up shoulders, hips, ankles. Useful adjustment is lifting the heel of the hand. Okay. When you're ready, dropping to all fours. Unroll, revolving the mat. And we're going to come into another passive pose. Okay, so quarter dog. So separating your knees a bit wider than your hips. And then I want you to fold your right forearm across your mat. Sorry, the left one. Fold the left arm across your mat. This way I can look towards the camera. And then your right hand goes forwards. And then I'm going to turn to look underneath the left shoulder. So I'm looking underneath the folded arm. Both forearms down, but the right arm is straightened out, the left is folded.
And I'm letting weight drop into the side of the head, the right side of the head. I'm looking towards you, hopefully. So the right side of the head on the floor, right arm is extended forwards. And as we know with this pose, or maybe we don't know, but with the hips, you want them just moving back towards your feet a little bit, so they're not directly over the knees. That's it. Okay, so Rebecca's doing the opposite, that's fine. So you can turn the other way. So you're going to turn towards your folded arm rather than the straight arm. Let's see. That's it. That's it. Yeah, great, Rebecca. Thanks. Okay, so this pose you might not notice very much to begin with, but it does build up. Okay. So I use two versions of quarter dog. This is the first one for working into the upper back and shoulder. So they're quite useful yin poses, I would say, because in some ways it's quite tricky to work out. A lot of yin poses emphasize the pelvis. It's tricky to work out what works into the upper back, shoulders. This is one of the things. Okay, from there, on an inhale, come up into all fours. We're going to take the cat-cow, but emphasizing the upper back. So feeling like you're really arching through the upper back, flexion and extension, the upper back. You can take your attention from the heart center through to the throat, on the front of the body, and from, as it were, the mid-thoracic up to the back of the head, on the back of the body. So it's like the heart center to the throat or the face. With your inhale, and from the back of the skull, base of the skull, to the mid space between the shoulder blades, on the back of the body on the exhale. Okay, setting yourself up on the other side. So I'm going to fold my right forearm down. Left arm extends forwards. I'm turning to my right. So the left side of the head is on the floor. I'm moving my pelvis a little bit behind the line of the knees. So I'm aware of the knees, yeah? So this floor is quite hard. You could put padding under the knees. So allow your attention to go where the sensations are most intense to begin with. This will help you to hook your attention into your body. So looking for the most intense sensations. Allow the pelvis to swing back behind the line of the knees. So again, we're looking to create this sense of traction through the upper back. And you can, there's a sense of allowing the chest to fall towards the floor, we could say. Yeah. Connecting with the breathing. Once you've anchored into specific sensations, again, broaden out whole body awareness. And then from there, on an inhale, carefully coming up into all fours, taking cat-cow, emphasizing the upper back. So we exhale, opening that space between the shoulder blades. Inhale, lengthening. Solar plexus, heart center to the throat center. Exhale, opening that space between the shoulder blades. Flexing the neck area on an inhale, extending through the thoracic. So we're going to take the second version. So coming into a neutral position. So this requires to get this right. So I'll turn towards you. Okay, so so this time the right arm, I'm going to thread it through. Sometimes it's called thread the needle. So we thread the right arm underneath and turn towards the left. Okay, so the right side of the head is on the floor, same as before. But now the right arm is on the floor, okay? And then can increase the weight into the shoulder by stepping my left foot out. Hopefully you can see that without doing anything nasty to your neck. Be careful. And then if you want, you can then turn the upper body, taking the left arm up and back, okay? So I'm just going to show that again. So if you didn't get that. So from all fours, I take my right arm underneath me and turn to the left. So the right side of the body, right side of the head is on the floor, right shoulder is on the floor. I can then stay there. That can be quite enough for some people. Separate the knees a little bit and let weight go into the outer right shoulder. If you want to increase the load, step your left foot out, just like propping up to the left. And then if you can, you take your top arm up and back. Sometimes called outrigger pose. It's like a Paul Grilly pose. Well, that's what I learned it. So I'm letting weight drop into the right outer shoulder. So I wouldn't turn to look at the camera, look at the screen, should I say, when you're doing this. Just check in with what's going on, particularly. So it's like a mixture of a twist and flexion really for the upper back, shoulder area. Allowing gravity to work through your limbs. It's like minimal effort. Once you've set it up, looking for a sense of balance in the pose. So there's a tendency to want to roll out of this pose. If you can stay there poised. Okay, then bringing the top arm down, dropping your left leg, unwinding into all fours, and then we'll set up on the other side. So I'll show it as it were backwards. So the left arm now goes underneath. I'm turning to my right. So again, that might be enough for most people. So I'm wanting weight to go into the outer left arm. So it's like going into the deltoid area. If you want to increase the load, take your right foot out as like a prop. So it's throwing weight into my left shoulder even more. And then if I've got the capability or the capacity, you can take your top arm up and look up and let that top right arm swing back. Really quite wacky pose, to be quite honest. But it's one of those poses really, if you can get it, it's quite satisfying for getting into the upper back and neck area, which is, it's a difficult area to work into. Needs a bit of thought in terms of which poses to use. It's also quite a delicate area. And it's an area that's, I think, quite suffers a lot at the upper back in terms of tension and weakness. So we're going to be addressing that issue over the next couple of days. Taking a moment just to pause, checking in with your moods, heart, mind, allowing gravity to work through your limbs. So you're looking to get a sense of poise, balance, and then really engaging minimally your muscle body in these poses. Just like resting back into gravity. The alignment of the pose does the work through gravity. When you're ready, you're going to drop the top arm. Right leg gathering back into all fours, unwinding into all fours. Taking cat-cow, emphasizing upper back. Opening space between the shoulder blades, inhaling, lengthening solar plexus to throat area. And that's it from there. Coming back into sitting. And I'd like us to, we might go a little bit over time. If that's a problem, be like 10 minutes or so. Hopefully it won't be a problem. But if it is, you will have the recording. Okay, so we're going to take the legs wide. And this is again a pose which we're aiming to work the upper body, but inevitably you work the legs. So I want you to fold your, well, I'm going to do my right leg. So I'm folding my right leg in. You could do the opposite, that's fine. I'm going to use some support. Okay, so I'll bring the support onto the inner left leg, or even on top of the leg. So this is a lateral movement. Taking it, so the knees are equally separated. So the femors, the thigh bones are separated evenly, more or less separated from the center line outwards evenly. And then I'm going to turn towards the folded leg. So it's I'm turning towards the straight leg. So this then exposes that, in this case, the left side of the body towards the straight leg. So I'm turning away from the straight leg, you could say. Taking this top arm up, the left arm, should I say, and then tipping out to the side. So this is where you'll see the bolster or support comes in. Okay, so you can then prop the side of your head on your hand, okay, and the bolster. So that might be enough for some people. So you might think, well, what's that doing in the upper body? There is a little bit of work, okay, in this lateral stretch, but I noticed it more dominantly to begin with, at least in the leg, in the left leg in my case. So if you want to increase the work in the upper body, you take the top arm out and you go across. So again, you could bring the hands together like we did right at the beginning of the session. You can prop your top arm into the lower hand. Or you can play with resting the hands onto the sides of the head. But in this case, we are emphasizing a bit of a twist. It's Paravrita Janushishasana. So it's revolving head to knee pose. So really where I'm noticing it is more like the side ribs, similar to that first pose we did over the bolster, but slightly more intense. Breathing now. Trying to keep a sense of weight going into the folded leg side. My right leg, sitting bone in my case. Gentle turning towards the ceiling. So you can be more active with the top arm. So the pose becomes a bit more intense. I'm actively lengthening it to the side, turning. But working, exploring the pose in your own way and working appropriately, gently. So here, the bell is chiming the hour. Okay, so on an inhale, carefully coming up. So it can be for me, it can be really strong in the lower back sides, like what are called the quadratus lumbarum. So just being gentle with that area. We're going to move the support to the opposite side, legs to the opposite side. So I'm now folding my left leg. My support could be a cushion or a bolster or whatever. Going towards the straight leg, separating the thigh bones equally, turning towards the folded leg side. Try to keep the groins open, so it's opening across the groins. Okay, so in this case, it's my right arm goes up, because I'm going to go to the right. It'll be your left if you're going to the left, and then you pivot out to the side. Okay, trying to keep weight into both sitting bones. Okay, you'll notice quite a difference between the two sides of the body. You can even take hold of that foot. Like for me, it's easier on this side to take hold of the big toe with the palm up. That's also possible. Or if you want to go with this propping position, that's also good. And if there's enough for you already on the side of the body, rest your left hand down on the thigh, on the left thigh. So you could rest that left hand down. Like personally, you know, working into the side body, I can feel enough there. And it would be interesting just to stay at that point in the pose and work with that sense of releasing. So the side body, yeah, not just in my body, but it's very common to have tension, uneven tension in the two sides of the body. So you could work with this. But if you want to emphasize more the upper back and a more intense pose, well, we take that top arm up, okay, and to the side. So it can be more passive. I'm resting the hands into the side of the head. Or it could be more active. So I'm taking the top arm slightly actively to the side of the gaze. I'm taking forwards, or even could be up. But attention in the neck. So if you're creating tension in your neck, find a more comfortable position for your neck. The gaze will affect the experience in the neck quite a bit. So gaze up is more intense, gaze to the side more neutral, gaze down could even be more neutral again, quieter. Working out what you're going to do with your arms. So I'm actually going to go back to the first position. Breathing there. Obviously, the more flexibility you've got, you might take your elbow to your leg, not to the support. Where some people are going to bring their arm right down to the floor. Okay, it really depends on someone's flexibility. So working within your limits, remembering that one of the, as it were, the propositions of the yin of this more passive practice is to work below your maximum limit, what we call sub-maximal, to try to promote a sense of relaxation in the body. So if you're really always pushing into poses, there can be a danger of, as it were, fighting with the pose. You're setting up a tension now, when actually it can be interesting to back off and yield, you could say. Yeah, there's a whole kind of, I'm sure there's a whole philosophy we could work out there, well, there is. But sometimes the stronger position is when you back down a little bit and back off, less aggressive, more yielding. You find that you'll get more opening, okay. So this practice is quite interesting, certainly, well, for all of us, but working with your ambition and where you want to get to in the poses. Especially if you're thinking in terms of working like 70% of your capacity. So there's an invitation to let go of striving, let go of that ambition. But then inhale, we carefully come up. Again, attention to what's going on in the lower back. We're going to bring the legs into cross. Oh, somebody's come out and they want to come back in. Okay. And sitting into cross leg for a moment. Hi, Sandra, you just come out and come back in. Okay, that's fine. And close your eyes for a moment and feeling what that pose was doing, in the side body, the lower back, around the shoulders and the neck. So even though apparently it's more like a lower body pose, there is definitely something's happened in the upper body as well. So exploring that. Okay. Wow.
Great. Okay, from there, so we're going to lie down onto the back of the body for a moment. And come into semi-supine. We're going to take one supine twist, okay, just as a pause before the final part of the sequence. So the simplest twist is to bring your knees towards you, take your arms into a T shape, and just take your legs to one side. So that's fine. Okay, if you want to do that, that's fine. Some people like to practice a twist with some support between the legs. That's going to be the quietest twist that you could do. Okay. You could also interlace the hands or place the hands behind the head. Those of you that want a bit more of an intense twist, what I would recommend is wrapping the forearm around the backs of the legs and then drawing yourself up into a kind of almost like a fetal twist and then resting. Okay, so choosing one of those twists. Also in the yin yoga, you get that shoelace twist, but we'll leave that for now. So choosing a simple twist or this forearm wrapping. Emphasizing softening around the shoulders and both shoulder blades sinking to the floor. Relaxing the legs. Closing the eyes for a moment, surrendering, yielding to gravity. From there, floating your top knee up to center, the other leg following, setting yourself up on the other side. So you could have like a bolster between the legs, come into a really simple twist or wrapping, up to you. The legs quiet, upper body quiet. So it's again a passive pose. Passive poses which are closer to the floor are in a sense even easier. So we're really yielding to gravity through the body. Your spine is, as it were, in neutral in relation to gravity, allowing the whole of the spinal column to be supported, even though we're in a gentle twist. Connecting with the breath here, which inevitably is a little bit shorter and shallower because of the twisting through the upper body. So the diaphragm's got less room to move. This sense of it almost like folded back on itself. Closing the eyes for a few moments. Releasing the neck. So the neutral position for the head is the gaze up. Slightly more twist is turning opposite to the legs. Again, tuning in with your breath. On an inhale, floating the top knee up. Look, coming back into semi-supine, checking that you're in a straight line. And rolling to one side.
Okay, yeah, wow, we're going to do this one. Okay, so a little bit more toning. So we're going to definitely come back to this over the next couple of days. So I think this is just like a first visit. So the dolphin pose, really useful for strengthening the upper back. So I'd like us just to come into a simple dolphin. So we're going to place the forearms on the floor, allow the hands to drift towards each other if that's what they want to do, or if you can, separate the hands parallel to the forearms and the shoulders. But it's fine to let the hands drift in towards each other, okay, for this first visit. And then we're going to lift the sitting bones. You're probably not going to get the legs straight, but the head is not touching the floor. So we're deliberately bringing weight into the forearms, the upper arms, shoulders, pushing away from the floor towards the sitting bones. Lifting the sitting bones. If you can, walking your feet towards your hands, lifting a little bit higher. Not like a particularly agreeable pose, this one, but it's beneficial. So we're doing some strength work, keeping the head off the floor when you're ready, releasing down. And rest into child's pose, whatever way you want to do that. Actually, one way which is quite nice after these poses is to thread the arms through the inner legs and then rest. So the inner legs are gently pressing on the outer arms, which we've just been working in various ways. Reconnecting with the breath. And then let's just try that one more time. So load bearing in preparation for Pincha Mayurasana, the peacock pose. So see if you can bring your palms flat down, the wrists flat down, the forearms down. It's okay if the hands drift towards each other a little bit. Lifting the sitting bones. Head off the floor. Your knees are going to be bent, I would have thought, to some extent here. And then working at lifting. Sitting bones. And there's a sense of pushing through. It's like real contrast to a yin pose. It's like working against gravity. There is a sense of actually fighting with the pose. Yes, so there's a sense of trying to move your chest back towards your legs to get a little bit more height. So you feel how that really works into the upper back, that space between the shoulder blades. Being gentle at the same time, and just gently strengthening. Okay, when you're ready, coming down and come into a kneeling position. Okay. Extending your arms forwards, palms down. We're going to cross the right elbow into the left and see if we can wrap the forearms. Squeezing the forearms together, and then on an inhale, gently lifting the gaze, lifting the chest, lifting the elbows. Exhale, drawing the elbows down towards your chest, taking the gaze down. I'll show this sideways as well. And then inhale, lifting the gaze, lifting the chest, lifting the forearms. On an exhale, coming, as it were, looking into the heart center. One more time, inhaling, lifting forearms, chest, gaze. And then on the exhale, bringing your elbows to about shoulder height. Again, hooking in the attention, your mindfulness, to the most dominant sensations. First kind of, as it were, place to look in terms of developing your awareness, specific sensations. Once you've got a general sense of that, okay, maybe, yeah, so particularly for me, it's like that under lower section of the shoulder blades. deltoids, underarm area. And then coming into whole body awareness. Growing the spine, sense of the spinal column in the vertical axis. Coming into, maybe closing the eyes, coming into a sense of your mood. Being aware of your experience of one of change. So it's just like, for me, it's getting progressively more intense, this pose. So we're doing Guru Dasana arms, eagle arms. So when I'm ready, I'm just going to be released soon. I'm going to release the arms. So do feel free to stay longer. That is enough intensity for now. Releasing the arms, taking the arms forwards. We're going to take the left elbow now into the right, as it were, nook of the elbow. As it were, pressing the forearms together. The sense of gathering around the center line, it's like wrapping the arms around the center line. Again, we'll start with the movements. As we inhale, gaze up, exhale, gazing down, allowing the elbows to drop a little bit, chest to flex the spine, moving opposite way, extension on the inhale. Exhale. Looking towards the heart center, and then bringing one more time the arms up. And finding, well, you're looking to bring the elbows about shoulder height. And the forearms then come away from your face. So that you're aiming towards the perpendicular, in line with the floor, that is, perpendicular to the floor. The gaze I'm taking neutrally towards the horizon. So again, I'm just noticing, and this is really quite intense for me today, around the shoulder blades. This is like pulling the shoulders blades away from each other. So it works into like the rhomboids, right? That pull the shoulder blades towards the center line. So we're doing the opposite now. Breathing there, noticing the sensations. So it might, often you get like whole section of your body just calling out, might not be that specific. Almost like one big block of sensation here for me. Upper back, arms. And when you're ready, again, do stay a little bit longer. If that's a bit short for you, that's enough for me. I'm going to release the arms down. And just let the arms rest to the sides of the body for a moment. Breathing now. Connecting in with the sensations, whole body awareness. Okay, we're going to do one more thing here. So I'd like you to extend the legs out, because we've been kneeling quite a bit there. So we could build up more, but I'm going to start to, this is going to be the penultimate. So come back into kneeling. So we've done, I'm sure we've done this before. So we're going to take the arms out like two wings. It's a little like flurry of activity at the end of a yin sequence, really. So we're going to do like 30 little circles. Well, up to 30. So you can count if you want. Not too fast, not too slow. I'm keeping the arms pulling away from each other. And I'm doing little like palm diameter circles. Not really big circles, little circles. Just look down the arm there. I'm engaging the arms quite strongly. And, you know, up to about 20, like 20, 30 circles. It's quite easy to begin with, but it will progressively get more intense. spine is in the vertical axis, the horizon, looking out towards the horizon. Wow, that's enough for me. Okay, releasing the arms when you're ready. I lost count there, unfortunately. So you can rest the arms into the lap for a moment. So just maybe you won't remember which direction you're going in, but that's fine. Hopefully you will get when we come back to it, you'll see. So winging out the elbows again, and we're going to take the arms in the opposite direction. So I was taking them up and back. I'm now going to go forwards and down. So I'm going to count this time. And that's 30 actually. So letting your breath do whatever it needs to do there. Actually 30 is all right, not too bad. So when you're ready, resting down, the hands again into your lap. Okay, we're going to do one last pose before. I'd like us to lead. I'd like a lead shavasana. So we'll go a bit over time with the shavasana, but I'd like us just to do one more pose, which I wasn't going to do, but we'll do it. Okay, so it's and it can be adapted. So it's called the snail, and it's a weight bearing on the shoulders. So one way just to make it easier, because I think it's best to look what I'm doing before you try it, unless you're really familiar with this pose. So I'm going to put a bolster behind me, and then I'm going to roll up. So you'll see why it's a bit risky, because it can be quite heavy on the neck and shoulder area. So I'm going to swing round. So I rest the shins onto the bolster, and you can rest the arms also above the head. So this could be, it's just can be a bit intense at this time of the day in the morning. So that would be a possibility. I could get rid of the bolster and it would be more intense. Okay, that's actually, for me, is okay. But if you really do want to do that, then use the bolster, but come into a more open position, which is the supported Viparita Karani. So that's the alternative. Okay, so if you don't want to swing over and bring that intense flexion into your neck and upper back, then don't do it. Okay, and once you're in it, don't turn the head. Okay, so let's try for a couple of minutes. Okay, so you're probably not going to want to spend ages there. If you're in Viparita Karani, sure, you can stay probably 10 minutes. But if you're going to do snail, you're probably not going to want to be there for very long. See if you can take the arms above the head, but it's an interesting pose to explore. So we know this, if you're an Iyengar person, you know this is Kani Padasana. Suppose it's the ear pressing pose. But here it's being incorporated into a yin practice. There's a more passive weight bearing on the upper back and the shoulders. Really careful with the neck. Okay, so yeah, I've said this before, neck injuries are no joy at all. They're really not worth it, getting a neck injury in yoga. If you're going to crash the car or something, okay, that's another story, but don't consciously injure your neck with a yoga pose, please. And it can happen, particularly with this kind of position, or headstand, shoulder stand, is quite common. So being very gentle with the neck. So this is, if you are doing the snail, as it were, release, feel that pressure through the tops of the shoulders. off into the base of the skull. So I think with the Iyengar version, yeah, you're actively pressing the knees towards the sides of the head. So that's up to you if you do that. I'm being more passive with the legs. They're not actually reaching the ears anyway. So just balancing the knees on the forehead or the side of the head. So yeah, I suppose that yeah, I could really do with exploring. Really powerful pose for inviting the upper back to quieten around the heart center. But when you're ready, very carefully unwinding. So use your arms to support coming down. If you're in Viparita Karani, coming down one leg at a time, coming into a neutral position, whichever position you chose to do. So if you're in the snail, we're coming into semi-supine. If you're in Viparita Karani, moving the support out of the way, coming into semi-supine equally. Again, staying with this sense of continuity of awareness post-pose. So with these more powerful poses, you will notice like an echo more clearly in your body. So we've just come to the half past the hour. So I'd like us to set ourselves up into Shavasana and use all the support that you want. Okay, so I'm going to have a bolster under the knees, and I'm going to have a little support for the back of the head, and I'm going to lead a 10-minute Shavasana. So I'm going to lie down, careful that I lie down in a straight line. If there's a danger of cooling down too much, or put more layers on, or even a blanket. Okay. And then separating evenly the legs away from each other, the arms possibly away from the body. Allowing your body to come into resting into Shavasana. If you're in a more contained position, you can bring your hands onto your body. More open position is the palms resting up towards the sky, away from your body. And remembering there's 3 adjustments you can make on your spine. The first one is moving the pelvis a bit towards your feet, sense of lengthening the lumbar. Second one is doing a sort of self-embrace for a moment, separating the shoulder blades and then releasing the arms again. And then the third one is moving the crown of the head away from you. So it's a sense of lengthening the neck. Maybe the chin slightly drops down now. Subtle adjustment to the chin towards your chest, but we're not trying to flatten the neck spine. So again, we'll come into an awareness of the specific sensations. So maybe there's one part of your body or a couple of parts of your body that are calling your attention. So we have worked, even though we've worked principally passively, you will have woken up the tissues, as it were, stressed the tissues during that sequence. So noticing which part of your body is speaking to you. And being open to whatever your body is telling you. So it can be surprising, might discover something new. The way that you practice today, or the particular conditions that we're in, a particular experience arises. So being aware of this, as it were, process dependent arising. So our experiences arise on dependence of certain conditions or certain other experiences, constant process of unfolding, developing. And then coming into whole body awareness. So from the crown to the fingertips, to the soles of the feet, whole body awareness. Tuning into your moods, your mental state, chitta, heart, mind. If we've got any more clarity on how we feel, maybe we've come into contact with something else that we, again, could be a surprise. In fact, it's more than likely going to be a surprise. Something new has arisen, new awareness. Opening to whatever's happening in the sphere of the heart mind. And then being aware of this quality of change, dependent arising, what I call conditioned co-production, pratitya samapada. Being aware of how your experience is one of constant unfolding, experiences arising, passing away. So we can be mindful of this process. So that's what the Buddhist teaching is recommending, that we become aware of. Dependent arising, a doorway towards liberation from suffering, from disease. And then for the last few moments, I'd like to anchor into the breath. So I invited you just to follow your breath, let your breath be, do whatever it wants to do. So we'll just carry on with that process. Let your body breathe. Staying there for a few more moments. And then we're going to bring this first session, the Yoga 1, to an end. So no rush to move into your next activity. Obviously now would be a great time to meditate if you've got the time. You'll find that you're kind of very body aware. So I'm gonna say goodbye for now. So Sadhata will be coming back in this afternoon. I do believe that's 3 o'clock UK time. And then this evening, okay? He'll be back as well. So I'll see you tomorrow with part 2. Farewell.